This week on the Fifth Trooper podcast.
So mark this in your calendars, July 6th and 7th in Syracuse, New York. We will be having a Legion event.
Welcome to the Fifth Trooper podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Fifth Trooper. My voice is back and my name is Jay Shalansky. Joining me now, as always, is Evan Bulris.
Hey, how's it going?
And Nick Allen.
Hey.
I said now, as always, because, Nick, it seems like you're going to be a staple of the cast again.
As long as you'll have me. But I have lost my place. I'm now below Evan with the introductions.
Yes.
Finally.
Oh, absolutely.
I have to climb my way back up, possibly through murder.
Yeah, well, or playing Legion. That might help.
either one of those.
I guess murder through Legion works too, but
all right, I guess that happened.
That sounds far less interesting.
So we are back from AdeptiCon. For those of you that weren't at AdeptiCon, the three of us plus Rachel all jumped in a van, loaded it up to the ceiling with my equipment and all our podcasting stuff and video stuff and clothes and armies and everything else, and drove, 11 hours out to Chicago from Syracuse?
It was 11 hours.
It was at least 11 or 12. It was quite a drive.
Those last 2 hours were the rough part.
Yeah.
The way up, we were all getting
ways,
really antsy. On the way back, you and Rachel were getting very giddy. It's the best way I would put it. And obnoxious.
Yep, that is true. So Rachel and I were in the back seat picking on Evan on the last, 2 hours, 3 hours?
It's a blur. I blacked a lot of it out. It's fine.
I will never block out that comment you said. Where you wanted to get home faster and you were pretending like driving in the ditch, and you said I have less to go home to.
Oh no.
Yeah. Right, yeah, I'll drive us right off this bridge. I have less to go home to.
I laughed so hard. I just looked at it, I was like, that is so dark.
It worked though. Everyone shut up and let me drive.
Yeah. So that was fun. But yeah, so we had a crazy weekend. As most of you know, I'm sure by now, we were live streaming the whole event. So literally from the moment, we walked into Adepticon on Thursday, we were waiting in line for the tank and Landspeeder, and the droids for X-Wing, right? And so we got in line for that, waited forever for that. Then we got in another line. I don't remember what that line was for. I just remember waiting in it.
Well, we started in the line for badges.
So 2 lines. It was for our badges. Yeah.
Then the line to get
and then
to the hall, and then the line for the FFG booth. So there were 3 lines.
Yeah. But that was fun and interesting. And then, what was it? Thursday, we live streamed the FFG event, which was crazy. Clone Wars. We knew that was coming, I think, for the most part. But it was good to see it and good to know that it's coming out, Q3. I think September is probably going to be its launch date. And then, so we live streamed that event. Then we set up and we did a test stream Thursday night where, Evan, you got to play with the Landspeeder and against Luke Cook, who had the tank.
Yep. Oh, sorry. The only time I'll ever beat him in a test game. I'll take it.
Yeah. Evan goes, so we were doing the test stream and we were with the Scoundrels, and I was talking to Scoundrels, and we just kind of came up with the idea to have Luke run the tank and Evan run the speeder. And so we're building lists for both of them so they didn't have to do it. And then Evan's like, wait, why are you guys building a list for me? And we're like, here, just play this. and we threw him on the table against Luke and a tank.
It was interesting. The tank can really cover way more ground than you think it can. So it was like he started the tank sideways, pivoted, moved, deployed. The snow troopers got their free move, and I got flamed and frag grenaded in my deployment zone. So that was terrifying. On the flip side, the speeder was pretty fun, and then I got to do a a Fast and the Furious jump off of a ramp and landed onto most of his army and gave everyone suppression. So that was pretty cool. It's cool.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, so basically during the compulsory move of that vehicle, you can displace units. So Evan was smart enough to use the compulsory to jump off this ramp on top of Luke's whole army to displace them and give.
It
them
was all
suppression.
I had. It was my last shot after that flame attack, but no, that was pretty cool. I really like the Landspeeder. I'm going to try to quote unquote get good with it. I just finished painting mine. I'm looking at the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I think the tank's really strong too, but just, man, be careful of those flanks because snipers look at that and say, here's 1 damage you can't do anything about.
Yeah, for sure. And the tank's going to be really interesting. I think out of the 2 vehicles, that's got a solid chance of getting into the meta because of its points and its ability to transport units. And we'll talk about that in a little bit and some of our strategy ideas behind these. But yeah, so that was Thursday. So then we got there early on Friday. Evan played all day Friday in the last chance qualifier, which we'll get to in a moment. And then myself, David, Endless, and Kyle Orchimedes did the live stream for Friday, and we were joined by Alex Davies for like the first 2 hours, which was wonderful, and highly recommend if you haven't had a chance to see the live stream, not only because it'll bump up my viewer count, but go subscribe to our channel and check that out. The information that Alex gives on top of what he gave at the FFG event on Thursday is just incredible. So there's a lot of great conversation, and also, Alex talks about the games and talks about different stuff on the Friday cast, and that's right at the beginning of the cast. And then so that was Friday, and I guess let's start there. So Evan, you played in the last chance qualifier. One of your games was on stream, but how did the other games go? How did you feel about
much
playing
better than the ones the one that's on stream? So it was good.
Yeah.
Like, I've done a lot of X-Wing events like this big, so it wasn't really, the size of the event didn't really bother me too much. The length of games is long, right? It doesn't feel that long when you're playing, but it's pretty much 2.5 hours because 15 minutes setup, 2 hours of play, and then 15 minutes like overtime if you can't finish a round. But they go real quick when you're actually playing the game because you're really invested in what's happening. First game went well. I got really lucky at some dice rolls. He was a really cool guy who was very willing to joke with me, and that was a lot of fun. Second game was with Nick Freeman, who gave me a good lesson on the caliber of player, and I just wasn't that. Unfortunately, I spent so much time getting ready for the event, I didn't actually get to play a ton, and then getting like when I felt completely outplayed, but that's just more of a reason for me to try to get more games and to get better, right? And then third game, unfortunately, was against Jeremy Appleton. One of our local guys was a good guy. Just it went really in my way. I had some really hot dice there. And then third game was super close. Came down to a couple die rolls. Chewie just couldn't finish off a thing of snow troopers to free up so he can go do some other stuff. So what stunk was I was really bummed out that I went 2-2 and didn't make the cut, right? And the guy, he's from Singapore, really nice guy, also super willing to joke with me, and I appreciate that. He went 3-1, and I'm like, oh man, you're in. And then I'm Saturday comes and I'm doing the judging for the stream tables, and he comes up and I'm like, hey man, why aren't you playing? And he goes, yep, I was 15th out of the 13 people who got in. And I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah, that's right, because there would have been 2, 3 and ones that would not have made it.
If you're listening, my man, please reach out to me. I want to send you some stuff, maybe a dice tray or something for a valiant effort. And I don't know how emotionally I would have been if I made 3-1, thought I made it in, and I was one of the 2 guys who didn't. That feels real bad.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a good day.
So, yeah. And I mean, what did you think? So, yeah, this was your first time playing on that type of terrain, because I know you played at Nova, but everything's changed since then. Everything. So how was?
Yeah, it was
your
good. So the terrain was really
experience this
cool.
time?
I'm a big fan of not doing the barricadia. I understand barricadia is each player takes 2 barricades and puts them down on the board where they feel lacks some terrain. I feel like in the spirit of the game, 2 armies show up, and sometimes it's just not the right terrain for one side to have a good advantage, right? So I'm a fan of just playing
Yep.
boards as is, and I like the fact that there's so many different cool boards. I unfortunately was too worried about playing. I didn't take a picture of one. There's a great Scarif one. There's a cool like mining, strip mine one. There was a great a couple of them played on like cityscapes. The terrain was great. You can look at if you watch our stream, there is someone had a drone and they used to take some video footage, and you can get a couple view of like a heads down view of some of the terrain there. That was pretty great.
Yeah, I'll say for terrain for Legion, we're at this really interesting place that's starting to mix beauty and utility with the terrain, where we want to make, and we have all these people out there in the community that are building beautiful sets of terrain. So the Scarif board was this guy named Jim Martin. He's actually up in our neck of the woods. He's out of Albany. And then Dave from Imperial Terrain did a ton of the terrain as well. And I think it's just, these guys they've both expressed to me like they're at the tournament, so they got to watch all the players play on their boards and really troubleshoot them, and watch them play so that they know what's better for next time. So I think as these events go on, that the terrain's just going to evolve and evolve and evolve, and just get better and better and better. And it'll still be beautiful and amazing, but it'll also be practical as well to the gaming.
No, it's good. It actually felt like Star Wars terrain, right? Like,
yeah,
not to knock 40K, but 40K is very skulls and spikes and death and dark and everything sucks. Like, Star Wars, there are cities, right? Like, there are fine cities that people live in and life doesn't suck every day. And then, right, like so to see boards that represented that, like, actually felt a little Star Warsy, like, we're not quite there yet to 100% Star Wars feel, but we're getting real close, right? It's starting to swing from whatever 40K terrain we have left to actual terrain built specifically for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to move over to that, like, when you play in a board, you're like, yeah, this feels like Star Wars, instead of like, well, at least there's line of sight blocking terrain, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, that brings up another point, and Nick, you can kind of pop in on this one too, is a big conversation happened around, so kind of a peek behind the curtain here. At these events, FFG, usually with X-Wing and with their other games, as like Keyforge and stuff, they have this company called Cascade Games. They run their tournaments. Legion right now is, I think, the only game that is not that's an FFG game that is not run by Cascade Games. And I think there was a lot of questions behind that, and we kind of got that answered at Adepticon. And the answer, our source, was, from Cascade Games, basically told us the reason they don't do Legion is because they can't see how it's possible to make it happen. And what I mean by that is transporting all that terrain and mats and everything else is quite a hassle for anyone to do, let alone one company to do 32 tables.
Well, yeah, the cost just to do Legion alone would probably have to, I don't know exactly how they transport things, but it's probably in like a van. And this would mean they would need a much larger vehicle just to transport Legion. So it's just not,
or multiple vehicles.
It's just not plausible for them without charging FFG some ludicrous amount of money. And Cascade Games, they do an awesome job. I've played in several of their events for different games, and they are the greatest.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the answer we got. So I think for the foreseeable future, outside of Worlds, which is at Fantasy Flight's headquarters, I think you're going to see more community supported events like this. And there's, we named 2. We named Dave from Imperial Terrain, and we named, Jim Martin, who does some amazing scratch work. His Scarif board was beautiful. And I've been talking to him since, and he's just been showing me pictures of like this Hoth board that he did, which is amazing. And he's working on this Mustafar board, the lava planet. And I mean, they are ridiculous. And so I think it's only going to get better. And as these creators see how we're playing and how people competitively want to see this, I think they're going to find a real good mix between beauty and utility, like I said earlier.
Yeah, it's a good point, because we were, we got there. Thank God we got there early, and things hadn't been quite put into gear yet to get things set up, and it was a question of like who's doing this. Whereas and then we were all very, we're getting frustrated, right? We had our own stuff to set up, plus we had to set up these boards, and everyone had to volunteer together, and I was getting mad because I'm like, man, I paid to play, and why am I got to do this and that? All that aside, though, everyone came together real great to make the event excellent. I want to give a shout out to the main marshal, Brett. No, was it Brett?
Brendan.
Geez, sorry. Brendan did a great job of pulling it together last minute, right? Got everything together, took control, got the tables out, took questions, right? He did everything, man. He was on it. And same thing to Bushfax for having to judge day 2 too. Man, that was awesome. But it's so X-Wing and Armada, right? You just throw out some mats and you're done, right? That's it. The terrain is a piece of cardboard. It doesn't matter. Whereas for Legion, you actually have to have physical stuff. So unless they want to figure out some way where the terrain looks like garbage, but it's functionally working, like just blocks and bricks, things like that, that's the only way I could see to actually do it in a way that this company could. Because it's just so much,
and
right?
I guess and I suppose some of our listeners are out there going, well, why doesn't Fantasy Flight support this? And I will remind you that they did at Nova, but we as a community told them to get out of here with that trash, basically, right?
It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? So it's the ones at Nova, the train was just very it was, each box had one downed ATSD, and then very similar train in each box. Snowboards were light, what it was what it was. But it wasn't for if you're a Rebel player, you're probably feeling pretty bad a lot of that lack of terrain. So we said no, we want better than we did ourselves, and eventually there'll be a happy medium. Right now, we just got to remember that we're just out of year 1 of this game, and the fact that we have so many dedicated, passionate players is very awesome. And man, back when X-Wing started at Nova, they were in a side room with 12 people. And now it's 200 something people after 5-6 years. We could be that, right? Legion could get to that point where that many people are interested and want to play, and then but we just got to keep going to your night kits, showing up, show FFG that this is a game you want taken seriously, and maybe they'll do more for it.
Well, and I think they're learning.
Oh yeah, I mean even
I don't want to make them.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say I don't want to make. No, you
go ahead.
I don't want to make them sound like this evil empire.
No.
So, because basically what it is I think, as we saw, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but with the new sculpts for the Clone Wars, this is their first real miniature game, miniature game, and so they're learning as they're going. And I think after LJ and Brendan did such a great job at LVO and here at Adepticon, I think they're seeing what is possible, and I'm sure they're taking notes on this. But really we need to give a hand to all these community members that are creators that are volunteering to bring this stuff to events and putting their terrain on these tables. And Brendan's group from Arizona, I think they put together a number of tables too. I know for sure they did. I just don't know how many. But so there's a ton of people that are pitching in, and Evan was saying, we kind of had to do the setup. Brendan was the TO. He was driving in from Arizona because he was bringing a bunch of boards. And so we ended up doing the setup ourselves, but I think that's part of our job as community members to build this, and not, right now. And hopefully one day, they will the building blocks that we're putting down now will help support the house that will be Legion, moving forward.
Yeah, it'll get there. I mean, like you said, like the big miniature game before this was Rune Wars, and that used 2D terrain as well.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like when you do a Rune Wars regional, everyone brings their own terrain, right? And it's like it fits in a pocket, It's just like tree areas and things like that. So it's a new idea for them, right? You go to the 40K areas and it's nuts, right? The terrain's insane.
Yep.
But then again, they've had how many years? Like 20, 30 years of, people dedicated, passionate to that community. And we've had one, so it gets frustrating, but it's all perspective, right?
It is. But I mean, just based off of the viewership that we had on our live stream, plus all the people that were there and are interested in this game, and Clone Wars isn't even out yet. Like, it comes out in Q3. I'm feeling very positive about our ability to grow this community into something that'll rival.
Yeah, it 40K. Seems very optimistic.
Eventually, someday.
Yeah. I'd like to at least be, Bolt Action or Infinity. That's my first tip.
Well, it seems like now that
you guys are thinking,
now that we bring in
the
Clone Wars, you bring in both like eras of fans now, and particularly the younger fans who have the time and the disposable income to throw into a game like this. That should make some headway.
Oh yeah, and the Clone Wars stuff just looks great. It was a bummer that so we went to the they did the announcements. That was awesome. And then people are asking me like, "Oh, what's calculated this mean?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" As soon as the announcement ended, they put all the articles up. And the articles have like high detailed pictures and like 3D model, zooms. And I'm like, "Oh man, these look good too." So the live announcement was cool, and we have it up on our YouTube. But if you didn't go to it, you didn't miss, right? Like it wasn't like a special info kind of thing. You got everything in the articles that we got.
Yeah, I would say yes to their event. However, I would say that if you have not watched our live streams, day one, Alex Davies on in the beginning, and then day two, he's on about halfway through day two, and he gives a ton of information that is not in the articles.
No. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the actual announcement they did, the FFG press conference.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that's completely different. Our streams are great, but if you missed the press conference, like if you're bummed out you weren't there live, you got just the same stuff we did. But the actual streams are cool to have him on. Just like he's just a dude, dude, just like Star Wars.
Yeah, that too. But Evan, I don't even know if you had a chance yet, but he gave a bunch of information about how the clones work and how they share green tokens. That's not on the article or in that.
Yeah,
stream.
No, unfortunately, I didn't get to hang out with you guys when he was there, so I have not gotten a chance to go back and look at that.
Yeah, well, speaking of, because Evan was doing work, so the first day Evan was playing, trying to get into the high command, but then day two, we ran into a little bit of a hiccup from a TO perspective that we didn't have a marshal judge for our streaming table. So our streaming area was probably 100 feet away from where everybody else was playing. And so we needed a special judge, and, Evan selflessly volunteered to do that. And so Evan was actually just basically napping in a chair because these were all high-end people who didn't really need a ton of judge calls. So
it was awesome and a bummer at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was cool to be able to do that and then get to watch them play. But also it's like, everyone knows the rules at this point if you're up at that high, right?
Yep.
So I just did like 2 line of sight checks. It's what it was. It was fun though.
But yeah, so then Saturday we did a stream again, and I was joined by Master of the Force Luke from Australia, Ed Martinez from Duarde from the boards, and then Nerfly, his first name's Bradley, and they joined on and off. And then, like I said, Brendan and LJ and a bunch of people stopped in and out both days. And then also, Alex was on again, day 2 for like almost 3 hours. He stayed for all of round 3, plus a little bit. Which was awesome. And he was talking to us about not only the games we were watching, but he was talking to us about Legion in general and about himself. He kind of went through his past jobs and stuff on stream. Like it was very interesting to just have him there and hang out and talk. He brought us Japanese candy, which was interesting. And so, it was fun.
Awesome.
And then Nick, you were walking around and watching, and then you got into what, Keyforge? You did the Vault tournament, right, on Saturday?
Yep. I like to think that I was waiting in the wings for if you needed me, but you didn't. The only thing is that like everyone was dressed really nice, and I did not get that memo because I had my 5th Trooper shirt and the hoodie and whatnot. So like, oh, if I go on stream, I'm going to be super underdressed.
You never underdressed for the 5th Trooper shirt.
Do it if I must.
That's right.
It's the best way.
But no, at AdeptiCon, my goal was, because Jay and I also do another podcast, and Evan is occasionally a guest, though he hasn't been in a while, though he could be if he wants to be.
I'll be back.
On another podcast called Crunch and Chaos, which is primarily around Keyforge. So I was soaking in some Keyforge over the weekend because there was a Vault Tour, which is Keyforge's biggest tournament currently, floating around, and I wanted to jump in on that. And so I did that and some side events, and that was my Adepticon.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go into more about that? More about Keyforge?
We'll get prosecuted online.
I didn't think so.
People don't like hearing about Keyforge on this Legion podcast. If you want to hear more about that, go to Crunch of Chaos. So I guess what we'll talk about next, does that pretty much cover Adepticon before I move on?
I got one more thing for AdeptiCon.
Okay, yeah.
There was one gentleman who walked by us who wore one of our hoodies that he bought himself. If Jay, you said you can look that information up, see who did that?
Way to put me on the spot while we're live. Yeah, let me...
is it just a yes or no? Like, is that something you can do?
I can absolutely look it up. It's going to take me a few minutes. So
no, that's fine. Just the fact that you can. We're going to send you a couple signed cards for repping us like that. That's fantastic. I had to do a double take to see that you were wearing that hoodie. I don't remember your name because I got a lot of names that day. But we super, super appreciate the fact that you got one of our hoodies and you wore it to a huge event. That's awesome. So we'd like to send you a couple things just to say thank you for doing that. Like, unironically, right? Guy just likes us and got our hoodie. That's awesome.
Unironically.
Yes. So I'm not going to continue looking for that name because it's going to take me a little bit. But
no, that's fine. Just, either reach out to us or we'll find you.
I don't think Evan actually wanted you to look for the name. He just wanted to know if you had the ability to look for the name.
Said Evan.
But we got a couple extra promos kicking around from just our collection. It didn't look like you got to play, so we'll send some stuff out to you.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that. No problem.
I know I at least got like an extra, 1 or 2 extra of those Veers Leia cards.
Yeah. We'll take care of them. So you, unnamed guy with wearing our gear, we'll see you soon, buddy. How was that? Did that sound menacing?
Good enough.
It did. Not at all, but it did.
Okay, so I guess we should move on. Let's talk about the tank and Landspeeder. So for those of you that didn't know or didn't catch it when I just said it a little bit ago, we got the tank and the Landspeeder at Adepticon. Like, got to buy it, got in line, purchased it. It was awesome. We played, Evan got to play with them Thursday night. I popped mine open. I got all the cards in front of me. I don't want to go too in depth. We actually do an unboxing. So if you want to know everything that's in there, go ahead and check it out. It's on our YouTube channel and you can view there. What I'd like to talk about now with Nick and Evan is just kind of thoughts on strategy that you think is going to happen with these two vehicles. Evan, since you played the Landspeeder, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on the Landspeeder, its use, etc.?
I cannot wait to play this thing. I just finished painting mine, building and painting it. I love the fact that it can be like you can just kind of old school X-wing it and just like lob turret shots at people because it's got the 2-4 rocket launcher. I mean, it's just one red, one black. It's a rainbow, right? Just one of each. But I mean, heck, that's a suppression, more or less a guaranteed suppression because it surges.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about running it without the front hard point. Front hard points are pretty good, but to be a fast moving like Jin delivery system or Chewie delivery system, because Chewie doesn't really care if he takes that damage. Right. So it's an open top transport, so that means if it takes a damage, the crew you're carrying takes a damage. But Chewie's got 9 health, and it doesn't matter, right? The defense dice on this are better than his. So I love the fact that it can kind of be everywhere. The pilots are interesting. Comes with the outer rim, whatever. But he gives you an extra cover, so it technically
outer
has
rim
cover too.
Speeder jockey.
That's it. And then it also comes with the named guy from Rebels. I have it right in front of me.
Ryder Azadi.
Yep. He's an exhaust to increase or decrease your speed by 1, but you could decrease your must move by 1, so it just goes to 1. That makes that move, maybe what you need, or you can go to a 3 if you got to get out of there. I love it. I think it's really cool, and I think mine's built at like 120 points right now, and that's really pretty reasonable for a Rebel vehicle. But being able to there's so many times when you got a unit at the other side of the map, and it's like turn 3, and you're like, they're not going to make it. Well, they do now, right? That thing can zoom in. The tank is powerful and scary, and it's going to be, I think, a staple. The pilots that come with it too make both of them, the one where if you complete a movement, get a name token, or the one that lets you surge to hits, work both great on the ATSD. So even if the tank itself doesn't become a new thing, the ATSD is back on the board, right, with those pilots.
Yeah. Was that guy's name Griffin Parks, by the way?
The hoodie guy?
Yeah.
Dear hoodie guy? I don't remember.
All right. Well, I'm saying it's Griffin. Hey, Griffin.
He looked like a well-fit gentleman. Was it a small or medium?
Yep. Sure was.
Probably him.
We got him. We got you, Griffin. Write into us if it's you. The Fifth Trooper Podcast at gmail.com.
But overall, I think that the pilots that come with the speeder won't affect the T-47, unfortunately. I just don't think they're there's only quite good enough for it for both of them, but the ones that come with the Imperial tank will affect the ATSD quite a bit.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. There's got to be something coming out, because both the named pilots for the tank and the Landspeeder are both weirdly expensive in different ways. So Ryder Azadi is 5 points, but you have to exhaust him to use it, right?
Yeah.
And then are inexpensive. And the first sergeant Arbmab for the tank is only 5 points. And they're both the named characters, whereas the unnamed characters are worth more and actually have a better wording on their card. It's just very strange. So like the Outer Rim Speeder Jockey, it comes with 2. Each set comes with 2 of these. It's the gain 1 cover, which is by far the better card and is worth more money for 10. And then for the tank, it's the Imperial Hammer's Elite Armor Pilot. He's worth 10, and you gain surge to hit with him.
Yeah, I think you could run. So I think the idea is you could run if you want to run the speeder and the T-47. You could put the jockey in both, right?
Yes. Same with the tank.
The rider or the other guy can only be in one anyway. So I think it's a cool, if you want to run 2 of them. But no, I agree. I don't know. This is definitely a troop-centered game, as to my chagrin, as much as I love vehicles. I'm not looking for a tank parking lot, but I want to be I want to fight against somebody with a speeder who's good enough where I'm like, man, this is really obnoxious. I just can't pin this thing down. or I want to see a tank or an ATSD on the board and be afraid of it instead of just like, you just let it go, right? Yeah, just like an ATSD, you're just like, whatever, you let it shoot. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh darn, oh gosh.
Yeah, and I would say, from my point of view, for the tank, I think your loadout for the tank is you want the Imperial Hammer's Elite Armor Pilot with the Surge to Hit for 10 points, and you want the RT-97C Rifle Pintle. It's 1-4 with a red and 3 white. Now, the other rifle pintle that it comes with is the DLT-19 rifle, which is a 1-4 2 red, and it's an impact 1. It's a DLT-19 from the Stormtroopers. But that's worth 18 points, and there really isn't going to be a ton of other armor besides this tank on the board right now. So you want to go with the RT-97C. And the other thing that we learned on stream, this is something I've speculated from the beginning, but something that Alex absolutely confirmed for us on stream, is that the occupier tank, its transport reads thus: transport 1 open. You may transport 1 friendly trooper unit. After defending, if you suffered 1 or more wounds, each unit you are transporting suffers 1 wound. 1 friendly trooper unit. Inversely, the Landspeeder says you may transport 1 friendly trooper unit that consists of exactly 1 small base mini. Notice the wording there. So what I had speculated from the beginning is that you could transport an E-Web with this because it's a trooper. And it was confirmed. You can absolutely transport a E-Web with this tank. Boom. I know you're both silent because of how incredible that is. So
yeah, it's a big deal.
So and for you, go ahead.
Just being able to transfer the flame troopers around and get them into range, just like, that's really powerful.
Where I think a lot of people were worried before because, so think of it in comparison to Jin and Pathfinders. So Jin and Pathfinders, they get you deployed in near objectives, right? And they have this kind of guerrilla thing going on where they get you deployed near an objective or behind a building or in a fire lane that's really positive for your team. And from an Imperial standpoint, we're like, all right, how do you counter that? And we were using Intel Recon to get that that speed 1 move when you deploy. But now with the tank, I think this is your answer, because what you do is you put an E-Web or you put snow troopers in the tank. You literally move once with the tank and you're like leaps and bounds down the battlefield, and then you deploy so what you would do is with the snow troopers, you can deploy, which is a move action, and then use your flame/grenades, or you could move, deploy, then move, then use your flame/grenades. With the E-Web, what you would do is you would find a good spot with cover near an objective, and you drive the E-Web up there, and you just drop it off behind the cover, and then stand by. And I think that's a huge deal. And then I think in combination with Krennic and I don't know if you could put Death Troopers and a tank in a list. I think you can, and probably get like around 9 activations. But with Krennic, with all the suppression tricks that he does, or even with Veers, I think the tank is going to be huge, and it's priced right, $155 for the base, and then with the upgrade, you're $165, you're $179 with everything. And you're on the battlefield ready to go.
That's the price of the Airspeeder naked.
Yeah.
And it's just better in just about every way, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have a feeling a card pack will come out that says, so they announced card packs for like cards you may not have, or like hard to get cards that's going to be like $10, really good price. But if they ever did like a points rebalancing pack, which I probably see in the future, I think you're going to see the Airspeeder drop quite a bit, because to get that tank like that loaded out or a naked Airspeeder, they're not quite the same, right?
Yeah, agreed. And I think that definitely those packs opened up that possibility. And even on stream, Alex was very honest and very critical I guess, against himself about that and how the points were off on and not just the airspeeder, but a couple models, and they're very aware of it, and they're going to somehow adjust points. And I think the card packs gives them an easy way to do that. Whereas, I think they probably originally wanted to do the app similar to X-Wing, and I think that was brought up in the first FFG event stream as well. Somebody asked that question, and I think they wanted to do that, but it just didn't make sense at the time Legion was coming out, and there's a very specific way they're going to have to do it. So I think these card packs is the easiest way to do it. Just print, like you said, Evan, just print a card upgrade pack.
Yeah, so like if anyone's going to these really huge events anyway, right? Like you're already committed, and they said, "Hey, $10 gets you the rebalance points for all these units." Because I don't see an app. They mentioned app maybe in the future, not 100%, right?
Yeah.
It's something that they're thinking about. But like, hey, if you're gonna play in this big open, you need to get this card pack that adjusts your points. Like, sure, right? I'd rather spend $10 to be able to play with my T-47 model instead of feel like I just kind of threw away $30, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it gives them a lot of opportunity with all the other errata that they're doing with like key positions and rapid reinforcements. You just put out a pack and it's done. So it's pretty cool. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's going to give them some good opportunities. Okay, so we'll move on to Clone Wars. So yeah, Clone Wars announced.
Everything I wanted and then some, I would say.
Yeah,
because I remember
what do you
Evan.
mean by and then some?
Yeah, Evan looked at. We were talking on the podcast once, and he's like, who do you feel the general should be? I'm just like Grievous and Obi-Wan. Like if you go by the Clone Wars cartoon, it's Grievous and Obi-Wan in his clone armor, not in his Jedi robes, and it's just like that's exactly what we got.
Yep.
Oh, they nailed both.
Yes.
Like that Grievous that has with cape, without cape, arms wherever you want, each arm holding a different thing. Like they blew it out of the park with those two models. That Obi-Wan looks perfect too.
Yes. Yeah, and they're clearly nerding out because one of his command cards is called "Hello There." So, they definitely get the memes, and they're
those madmen. They did it.
Yeah, they did it. And, I think one of my, it's funny, I think we talked about this on stream, but I'll get your guys' point of view on this. So they're doing the new technique with the models where they're doing the spindles and everything in the hard plastic versus the PVC softer plastic. I know a ton of people are excited about that. I can tell you I am not. I understand why they're doing it, and I get that it's going to give you more detail and they're going to be better models and blah, 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 blah. I hate it. And I'll tell you why. I've played fantasy for a long time, Warhammer Fantasy, as I've mentioned on this podcast a number of times. And one of the hardest things about playing and traveling with those armies is that hard plastic breaks. It just falls apart. It's the worst. And it is so tough to travel with that this new soft plastic stuff was like, Evan, you and I have talked about this with your like slop bucket idea where it's just like, I don't care about this. These don't break. And you just like toss them in your bucket. Well, that's not going to be the case with the new models. Yeah,
so I agree with you. I also agree that yes, the sprues are better. But the entry point to me, for a lot of people is like, well, I don't really want to build these and do all that. I'm like, stormtroopers, when you buy them, you just put the arms in and they're connected to the gun. So it's two pieces, like three, like head, slotted in, arms, body, done. People are like, wow. I mean, when I first got, I was watching a movie while building all of them because you don't really need to pay attention, right? The good part is they build quick, and like when people are like, well, how are the minis? And I just dump a couple of mine on the floor, everyone in the room gasps, right? Because we're in a 40K store. But I'm like, nah, I don't care. Something catastrophic would have to happen for them to actually break, right? But with the harder plastic, the sprues, yes, they are way more detail, and you're going to have more pose options. So like the droids have kneeling down, standing up, holding this, holding that, high-fiving, right? You can do so much of those droids because they give you customization options. but I really didn't mind that I didn't have that with my Legion guys. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I just find like, yeah, I can buy this box of dudes and within 20 minutes, 10 minutes, have them built and then be good.
Well, it seems like they're.
I think. Go ahead, Nick.
It seems like they're doubling down on the hobby aspect. Like we've been talking in several episodes about how Legion is a hobby as a whole of building models, of painting, and everything like that. And it seems like they started off thinking about it from more like the X-Wing aspect, where they just want people to be able to get their things together and get them on the table as quickly as possible, which is how most FFG games go. They just want you to play the game. And now it seems like they're going hard towards the hobbier aspect of it and having it be fully immersive. Like you have the sprues and you have to cut them out and you paint each thing individually, and it takes you like a week to actually build one of your units.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I get it. I think it's going to be 50-50. I think half the people in the community and new people that are joining up are going to love these new models, as they should. And then I think there's another half of us that are going to be like, I kind of like the other ones, but we're going to deal with it because it's Legion, right? And it's Star Wars.
Yeah. Otherwise you're just leaving the game.
Yeah. I mean, because I said eventually they'll all go back to the alternate sprue. Like every SKU will go to that at some point, which is a bummer to me, but like I say that I'm still going to buy it and build them and play it. So yeah, so it's going to take a little bit more. I mean, this is the first hobby game I'm actually enjoyed painting, and I'm starting to paint. So I had to paint all that stuff for Adepticon, forced, but I built and paint that Landspeeder just because I wanted to, and I haven't had a model I've ever wanted to do that with. So that's something to say for the sculpts and everything. So I'm excited.
So let's talk about the units a little bit. Let's start with the battle droids. As you know, they said during the stream and all this stuff, these are going to kind of be, if you've played fantasy or any of these kids, they're going to be your horde army. So they're going to be kind of like orcs and goblins. And it's funny because they definitely have some interactions that feel very much like orcs and goblins from fantasy, where like the battle droids have this thing called AI attack. Unless you have a face-up order token, your first action should be an attack if able. So like if you don't have a face-up order token, you're attacking. Like that's what you're doing because you're already like in the hive mind and it's telling you to attack. And then they also have a second one called Coordinate Droid Trooper. After you are issued an order, you may issue an order to a friendly droid trooper unit at range 1. So if you keep all your stuff together, you're just issuing those orders, and then the AI attack doesn't take place. But it's just so cool. And then the base unit has 6 droids in it, plus it's only 6 points for the 5th or the 7th one. And then I'm guessing maybe 11 to 12 points for the ESC B1 trooper, which is 1 to 3 black. So I think you're looking at, for roughly 64 points or so. Let's call it 68 to be safe. You're going to have 8 models, and you're going to be tossing 7 white and 3 black. It's so awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm in. So they don't surge, right? So it's just gonna be hilarious.
So in a vacuum, a unit is hot garbage. Garbage. White attack dice, white defense dice do not surge. But like if you set them up in like a row or a cluster where they're all giving each other order tokens, they are going to be crazy good. Because you're going to be able to have full control over your army. You only shoot with who you want to shoot. You never have to pull out of the bag. And they're just going to machine gun down everything. But if they get disconnected, hot garbage.
Well, and that was always the thing with I loved orcs and goblins were my jam. So like I'm completely switching to droids, and I know a number of people are, but like it's just numbers. You're just overwhelming your opponent with numbers. That's all it is. And you have to have kind of this mob mentality when you're fighting with your army. So basically, like when you see the prequel movies, especially the Battle of Naboo, where they're just like in these rows, like Revolutionary War, Civil War style, like that's how you're fighting. You're just marching in rows towards your enemy, and you're just shooting. And basically what you got to do, and I know this is going to be tough for a lot of Legion players, is whole squads are going to get wiped out. All these things are going to get wiped out, but you just got to go, okay, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
I'll just build more.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's expected losses is high with that army, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're surprised if you
right
after a shot. I wonder, do they have a morale?
It's one.
I don't remember.
It's one health, one courage. Yeah.
You've watched the Clone Wars. You've seen the way they run away.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they did just like robot, right? Like, but I guess they do have personalities.
It's amazing. It's so amazing.
The droidicas look cool. The fact that they have a ball mode and also a deployed mode.
Yeah, and I think they said that they're going to have. I'm pretty sure Alex was saying that when they're in ball mode, they'll have a different speed and defense, and they won't be able to shoot.
Yes, it matters.
And then when they pop up and they have a shield and all this crazy stuff, like it's going to be bananas. And then he was saying that the speeder, the speeder bike for the clones, the sidecar is an option. So that's crazy. Like it's, oh my God. And it's
going to be able to turn 180 degrees.
Yeah. Dude, it's so good. And then, Grievous looks good. Like, I don't know. Everything looks so good.
Yeah. Yes, it does. I can't wait to see the abilities on Grievous and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting.
Overall, I think the only new stuff from a token basis was the 3 suppression and then the surge token. So, because there's going to be critical X, and then there's going to be some other new words that are going to base off a surge and other stuff. So critical X is basically you can convert one hit to a critical, and that'll be part of that. Plus, you can get, you can hand out surge tokens, which you can then spend on surges for instance, the droids don't surge. I don't think the clones surge either. So the clones and the droids don't surge, but if they have a surge token, then they can.
Yeah, you basically get it basically works like a focus token in X-Wing, where you get the choice on attack or defense where to spend your surge.
Yeah. The other 2 interesting things, smoke grenades are coming with the clones. From what I can see, it's you gain the action smoke, and there's some line of sight stuff that goes along with that. It's hard to read the card. If you're within X range of the smoke token, then you'll be out of line of sight, I think is probably what it's going to be.
That'd be cool.
The clones get both Z6 and basically DLTs options for their upgrades, which is ridiculous. They're hella expensive, and then
52 points starting,
and then you're looking probably 24 for an upgrade to 24 to 30. So you're going to have 5 guys in a unit, which we're kind of used to now, but they're going to be very expensive. But part of what Alex and they were trying to point out is because they are really good. They shoot black 1 to 3. They and you can have a Z6 and and they have red for defense dice and
red for defense.
Yeah, and they have fire support. So when another friendly unit performs a ranged attack, if you have a face-up order token, and at each mini in your unit may add an eligible weapon to the attack pool. If you do, flip your order token face down. Limit 1 fire support per attack pool.
Yeah, you're going to be able to burst down things.
Yeah, it's crazy.
By having 2 units together.
Crazy.
No, I'm super excited for them because that's definitely like that army just has everything that I wanted, because I don't like having a ton of activations.
Yeah.
I like being able to put as many order tokens down as I possibly can and having more control of my units and not having to worry about so much. And these guys just hit all the marks for me from not having played with them. They hit all the marks for me because I would love to have like a 7 or 8 activation list that's viable, that's good.
Yeah. And I'm the reverse. I want activation spam. So like the droids for me are perfect because I'm already at 12 activations with the Empire. Could you imagine if I had 16? Oh my God, that would be amazing. So happy. The other interesting thing was there's
so much plastic to buy.
I know.
Paint.
Yeah, I know, it's so good. Another upgrade card, electronoculars came with the droids. You gain spotter, I think it's 1, and it's a friendly unit at range 1 gains an aim token with those. And then there's something special with the battle droids. I can't read what it says. It's something that this card's upgrade slot. I don't know. There's something. Maybe it gains something else, or it doesn't take up an upgrade spot or something. I don't know. So that's super interesting too.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I've already like pretty committed to both these other armies, but whatever.
Dude, I'm all in on everything. I'm all in on all of it. Like I'm gonna have everything of everything, and probably 3 to 4 of everything. So, the hell with it.
Which means you're gonna get my
droids.
My droids.
Well, maybe we need to buy 2 core sets then, and we'll split. And you can have. I'll let you take the clones out. Yeah, and I'll take the droids, and then we'll talk about. And then I'll split. Then I'll do the same thing with Evan, and then I'll take the clones, and he can have to.
Just give me everything.
No, I mean it's amazing. I think based on what I'm seeing, they're still like knocking it out of the park with the theme and being on theme with everything, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's all fan-freaking-tastic. Yeah, so let's see. I guess one last thing. This is something we are very, very excited about.
Oh, yes.
So we are putting on an event. So mark this in your calendars, July 6th and 7th in Syracuse, New York. We will be having a Legion event. We're looking to make it big. If you're familiar with the area, it's going to be at the Salt City Comic-Con. Which is going to be huge on its own. And so I would highly recommend keeping an eye out. We're going to have registration on our website for it next week for both the con and for the Legion event. This is something I would say you potentially can bring your family to. So basically what they're doing is it's going to be this big Comic-Con. They're going to have like all kinds of different like comic artists. They're going to have wrestlers there. Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters is going to be there. Like it's just going to be crazy. And on top of the convention with all the toys, comic books, gaming, all that stuff, they're also going to have a full-fledged carnival. So like you're talking Ferris wheels and teacups and carnival games and like a full like fair. On top of it, with a stage with bands playing. They're talking about doing like movies. Plus, it's 4th of July weekend, so there's going to be
oh my
fireworks.
God, I forgot about the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah,
Jeez.
It's going to be fireworks. Like this, I can tell all of you. Normally, I would tell you not to come to Syracuse. This is the one time of year that Syracuse is just lit up. Like it's summer and we go crazy when it's summer because we don't have many summer days in this area. And so it's just going to be lit. And, we have a minor league baseball team. I'm sure they're going to have a game around there. They're the minor league for the Mets now. So you can come watch a minor league game. It's going to be crazy.
It's also part of the mall.
And, right.
Means you have movie theaters.
So let me,
there's a 4-story mall.
Right. Yeah. Let me
4-story mall.
Let me explain this to everybody too. So there is a hotel / convention center right across the street from the mall where part of the convention is and the fair is going to be. Then there's this walk over the road, the highway there, where the rest of the convention is going to be. And in that part over the walk is the actual mall. And you're talking some high-end shopping, like, they got like Saks off of Fifth. There's all kinds of shopping. I was going to name a bunch of stores that I don't coach, all this stuff, plus an IMAX theater, plus 50 restaurants, plus a Dave and Buster's. Like, there's just insanity, man.
Bowling alley.
Like, this place, it's crazy. So it's going to be off the chain. And we're going to be doing a Legion event. Our goal is 64 players. If we have more, we actually have 2 days. So we have both Saturday and Sunday. We don't know what the format's going to be. We don't, we're working on that. We're working on prize support and all that stuff. This is just our initial announcement. So Syracuse, New York, July 6th and 7th. Be there or be square. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I was pretty pumped that we got it. I didn't realize this year that I was tagged onto the mall. So so the worst part about the conventions is normally if someone who's not into it comes, there's really not a whole lot to do. But this is like, there's just so much stuff. Like you're almost going to be bummed out you're playing Legion. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So like, you're going to be there and you're going to be like, well, geez. But I mean, so you come for 2 days or you come up Friday night, you play Saturday Legion, and you get Sunday, you just explore the mall and do all that stuff. Like, it's going to be a good weekend either way.
Yeah. And I would say with Syracuse, like, this might be an opportunity for, I know a lot of people like to go out for 4th of July. So, the 4th is Thursday. If you guys wanted to drive up, there's going to be fireworks all throughout the city and around the lake and everything. We have a lake right in Syracuse. Don't go in it, but we have one.
Please don't go in it.
Yeah, there's a beautiful park along the lake. There's the mall. There's this convention. There's a baseball team. I mean, it's going to be crazy. So I think if you were to plan like a family kind of excursion to come to this, that your family, while you're playing Legion, would have more than enough to do. Plus,
very much so.
Yeah, and plus they'd be in the same place as you, so they could swing by and say hi, if that's something that you want, before they go to a movie or before they go to the carnival or before they go to dinner, or you know what I mean? It's going to be nuts. There's actually, it's just going to be crazy. There's just a lot going on. All the stores in the mall do special. Last year at this fest, they did all these special things, like Gordon Biersch is going to have a beer that's specifically for the convention, and it's going to be discounted. Like, a bunch of the coffee shops made special drinks for the convention that were discounted. Like, it's just going to be ridiculous.
It's, living here, you kind of get sick of the mall and you're like, well, whatever. But if you've never been to Destiny, it's like 4 or 5 stories as an IMAX, RPX, so many places, the indoor go-kart. The trap room,
escape rooms. Yeah, the mirror maze.
Like VR, Dave and Buster's. Like, it's here, you're just kind of sick of it. Like, yeah, whatever. But if you've never been, it's crazy. The first time you come, you're like, what is this place, right? So,
yeah, there's legitimately 4 arcades in this mall.
I mean, it's you'll find something to do. That's most I could say is you'll find, even if you see a movie, man, you got RPX and IMAX, like, it's great.
Well, and I think, the lunch break is going to be much easier for everybody, because not only do they have a full food court, but there's also restaurants. So I think food is going to be easily accessible. Just everything's going to be easily accessible for you. And I think it's really going to make for an incredible event. So
yeah, it's going to be pretty rocking.
So we will keep you updated on that. I did want to announce it. You'll start seeing stuff on the Facebook, Reddit, the Discord channel, everything else. We will definitely be plugging it everywhere. Registration will start next week. And then depending on how much interest we get will depend on format. If we break it out into 2 days, what we end up doing. So
sounds good.
Keep your eyes peeled. Yeah. All right. Well, do you guys got anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
No, I'm all set.
Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for listening again. If you have any questions, want us to answer any questions for you on live on air, email us, thefifthtrooperpodcast@gmail.com, or go to our website, thefifthtrooper.com, and fill out our contact form. We will we'll try to answer your questions for you. Don't forget, we do have our shop with our mats, which we will have at the Syracuse event. So if you're planning on coming to Syracuse and you want a mat, let me know. We're going to have them there. You can buy them right there. We'll have a full merch set up. It's going to be crazy. So please check all that out. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate that. We're getting really close. Quite frankly, to if we wanted to monetize, we could start doing that soon. And so the more subscribers we get, the better, which will help us produce more content, yada, yada, yada. You know, the whole spiel. So check all that out. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we hope to see you soon.
Stay rad.
Take it easy, everybody.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.